our fans deserve better. And also for us to like solidify our place as like Detroit soccer team, we need a stability and we need certainty, and a venue of our own was really the only pathway forward.
And that's the voice of Sean Mann. He is the co-founder and CEO of Detroit City FC. He is our guest today for your Daily Detroit for Monday, July 21st, 2025. Recorded at our studio at TechTown. I am Jer Stays. Welcome to the show, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. Joining me also is Norris Howard. Before we get into it, thank you so much to our members on Patreon. Patreon.com/Daily Detroit. It is members, it is local support that makes sure this podcast gets to your podcast apps every weekday. Good to see you. Welcome to our Detroit's living room, if you will.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's, you know what, I feel like this has been a long time coming. A lot of our listeners love the club. They attend the matches, and finally getting you in studio has been awesome.
We appreciate the coverage over the years. It's been great.
There's been a lot going on with the club lately. You know, for you, how have you been feeling? How have the vibe shifted over the last few years with all the projects and growth? I know we're going to dive into it more specifically, but I really want to talk to you and how you're feeling about things.
I would say since COVID, and especially in recent years, it just keeps escalating, is this like sense of what has happened with DCFC and the community around it, and like reaching this level of like impacting people's lives and becoming a part of people's lives, and how that's kind of, comes over us as the guys who started this club, this like sense of stewardship that weighs more and more heavily on us. And as the club grows, like just that impact. And now I can't go somewhere, and I'm not saying this like in a celebrity type way in any way. It's more just like I can't go to Honeybee without somebody like seeing me, because I'm super cheap. I'm always wearing DCFC gear. So it's easy for them to.
There's a reason half my wardrobe says Daily Detroit on it.
Right. But, somebody coming up out of the blue and they have a story, or, like some way that the club touches them or their family or their network, and what it means to them in ways that I would have never imagined. And so, yeah, that's, it's really humbling, but it also like puts pressure on us to like make this a thing that we hope it to be, and something that's gonna be around for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the true blue grassroots stories, of not just, Detroit, but of sports in general. I remember when the club was, playing at Cass and, first getting going, and that energy hasn't really dissipated. It's only grown. And so you guys have moved then obviously from Cass to Hamtramck. Now there's going to be an even larger move coming up in the near future. You guys are going to be in Southwest Detroit, kind of right there on the border to Corktown, not far from the train station. And, why was it important for the club to pick that site in that area of town to really expand to the next phase of Detroit City Football Club?
Well, Keyworth's been great to us, and I love Keyworth. I took my now wife on one of our first dates to Keyworth when I was telling her about my dream of what DCFC would be. But like the reality is there's just a lot of shortcomings to Keyworth for where we're at and like where we hope to be. And so, I joke like, instead of mortar, it's charm that holds Keyworth together. And
those are facts. I love the building. If people don't know, to give listeners who aren't as familiar a little lay of the land, it was built during the Works Progress Administration.
First one in the state, supposedly, and FDR was actually there for ribbon cutting in 36, right? And,
yeah, it's an amazing spot with all of the original everything almost. And that's also a good, and like it's a good thing aesthetically, but sometimes on the infrastructure side, not so great.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a competitive sport, right? And then a competitive landscape, and we have to put out a competitive team, and I hate to sound like past owners who, as someone who loved Old Tiger Stadium and still romanticized it, like we're just at a competitive disadvantage in that stadium. But also like our fans deserve better. And also for us to like solidify our place as like Detroit soccer team, we need a stability and we need certainty, and a venue of our own was really the only pathway forward. And so, We honestly, it was probably this time 5 years ago, somewhere in 2020, where we started getting our heads around like, what is the future of this club? Where's it going to be? And so we looked at sites all around town. We looked at land in Milwaukee Junction. We looked at land near Eastern Market. But ultimately, we gravitated towards Michigan, around Michigan Central. And it's prophetic in the sense that like the dream of DCFC was really conceived, by me and Hubbard Farms, Mexican Town, and some other guys in Corktown, and the bars up and down Michigan Avenue in those old DCFL days where it's like when we dreamed over beers, like what could this team be in starting out? And so I've lived for close to 20 years next to that site, and it really, I guess like everything, I just drive by it and didn't think much of it. But then all of a sudden it clicked that this was an amazing site that bridged Corktown and Mexican Town, two regional destinations that aren't downtown. But it really is, those blocks are, I hate to say it as a Detroiter, but like they're in no man's land. There is only one occupied building within 2,000 feet of the site. Right. And so it's an opportunity to bridge that area, take one of the biggest blighted properties in the city and do something positive there. And you got 2 million cars a week that drive right by it. Right. It's the biggest billboard we'll ever have, for the sport and for the club.
And a lot of the infrastructure over there is kind of still there from, say, the Tiger Stadium days, like freeway exits, things like that, to get into the Corktown neighborhood. There's a lot of advantages there. For me, I'm really glad to see the old Southwest Hospital come down.
Facts.
Because as a longtime resident, that thing has been, the early 90s was when it was last active, right? I want to say.
It was teetering in the 90s, and there were several iterations, and I think it finally closed in 06.
No, I mean, I love the fact you say it's going to be a giant billboard for the club, because in my mind's eye, I literally see myself coming back from Windsor and going over the Ambassador Bridge and seeing the stadium and seeing the festivities going on down there, or coming off that overpass of where 96 turns into 75. I think is going to be great. Obviously the stadium is going to be down there. There's some revitalization efforts that are going to come with that as well. What sort of timeline are we looking at right now? Because obviously there was the initial timeline that came out when the first announcements and reporting came out. Like, could you give us like sort of where you think we'll be ready to see balls kicked at the stadium?
Yeah, I mean, lessons learned for me being new to building stadiums and terminology, right? But we're still on track for having this for the 27 season, right? And it's always been aggressive, and we are putting a lot of stress on ourselves and contractors and architects, but that is what we're pushing towards every day. And so we went through the brownfield process for the demo and the site work this spring, and I was just out there this morning with the dewatering crew, and they're set to get going next week, and that will be the big step to clear the way for demo to start happening short after. So. We're pushing as hard as we can to be ready for that 27th season.
So for those at home, dewatering, your basement's flooded.
That's putting it mildly.
We are unwatering this building.
There is the current estimate that there is 1.9 million gallons of water in the basement and the loading dock. And so, unfortunately, it tested positive for, enough forever chemicals that we have to treat it before we can put it in the sewer. So they have to bring in a big charcoal filter to clean it up, and then we can put it in the back in the sewer, all clean.
You described the timeline as aggressive. What was your thought behind that to say 27 and not say 28 or 29?
I mean, I think we've always kind of held ourselves that one, we didn't want this project to linger. We have a credibility gap in just who we are, right? As a friend pointed out, I think we're the first people of our generation of this age to take on a project this big in the city. And as a friend pointed out, no one knows our last name, Todd's dad, was an electrician, and my dad worked at a lumberyard, and Alex's dad owned a laundromat, so we're kind of everyday guys. So there's, people associated with Cast Tech or something like that. Mm-hmm. So there's a deficit. So there's always some sense of urgency and deliverables on our end, and assuming we don't have the benefit of the doubt. But also, it's an amazing time for soccer, right? We want to be showing progress on that site. We want to see, steel going vertical in 26, because there's to be this amazing narrative of World Cup happening. There's all these things happening with soccer, and we want to be able to open a stadium on the heels of that.
You guys actually announced your architect. Is it HOK or HOK? HOK? Is that how they say
HOK, yeah.
We'll get an angry mail from someone
I'm
over
sure
there.
we will. I'm sure we will. But they've built a number of stadiums across the world, and particularly they have one in Kansas City, which I think is a little bit closer to the vision than Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is in Atlanta.
I believe they did St. Louis City FC.
Yes, it was St. Louis City FC. Excuse me. And so just kind of wrapping your idea around kind of the vision for what the stadium will look like. When can we see what it'll look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. We signed our, I wouldn't say it's a delay, like, because actually I think everyone in the industry thinks we're moving at a pretty lightning pace, but there is an onus on us. Like, again, like it's us guys who started a club who are driving this project, and we've been very fortunate to bring on some great partners, but there's no billionaire backing this project, right? So for us to get the banks comfortable with financing this project, like, we've been having to line up the sponsors, and so to make sure that like we can pay that debt. And so we've signed the stadium name rights partner. We're finalizing the renderings with HOK, and like look forward to rolling that out shortly, and that being a kickoff process for the public approval process to start going vertical.
Being that there's no billionaires involved, help me walk through this, because I'm so used to covering stadiums and things over the years in kind of more of the traditional model where it's like, oh, hey, well, it's Dan Gilbert, so it's gonna what I mean? So how is the financing of this coming together? Because I feel like this is a big lift. I mean, this isn't just going to be like a couple $1 million.
Yeah, no, it's it's going to be north of $100 million for the stadium, and then the companion parts of it. So honestly, like, with the humility, like, I think, I was telling the mayor this just the other day, like, I think we were, one of the great Detroit entrepreneurial stories of the last decade, right? That in 2018, we had 3-4 full-time employees, and we got a $40,000 Motor City match grant, right? And now we're north of 60 full-time employees, and we've amassed 20 acres, in the city center, and we're embarking on this project. And we, again, like any startup, like continual startup, like we've just brought on investors and partners who believe in what we're doing and the vision, and trust us with being at the helm here. And so, I mean, this is the biggest chapter yet.
So what's interesting about this to me too is that not only have you done a lot of crowdfunding, but it sounds like, at least to me from what you're telling me, and tell me if I'm wrong, this is more of like a group of investors as opposed to like one guy or one gal.
Yeah, I mean, because we did the Rec CF in 2020, like we have to post whenever we're doing raises and all this kind of stuff. And so, to date, we've raised over 36 million in equity. And we're pushing probably 15, 16 people who've contributed. Some certainly have put in more than others, but no one person's writing the check for this. It's a lot of people who have bought into what we're doing.
Yeah, and just to circle back, you were talking about the energy that's going to be happening around the sport moving forward. With the new stadium, it does provide more opportunities to host events even outside of a DCFC matches. Obviously, there's the women's team that is popped off now, and there'll be more opportunity to do more things at the stadium. Beyond just matches, what is one of the number one things you're excited for to see happen with the new site?
Yeah, I mean, one, it's not just be DCFC using the stadium, right? Both, we want the site to be as active as possible, but also like, the lenders want to make sure that's not just DCFC, like, taking the load here. So, NCAA events, other sporting events that fit more appropriately in that 15,000 seat venue than say a 65,000 seat venue, or you can't do other stuff in Comerica because Tigers are there every other day, and there's a handful of concerts, right? So we're filling a need in the marketplace for like the size event. But thinking more just beyond sports, like and we'll be rolling out, I think, partnerships we're really excited about. That again, that whole narrative tying Corktown into Mexican Town and being a bridge. And Michigan Central is an amazing project, and Roosevelt's Park is amazing what they've done there. But it's kind of a dead zone in terms of like retail. And so, I'm inspired. I was fortunate. I lived in England for a few years in North London, and I loved the old Highbury, and I loved the old, in particular, the White Hart Lane. And I'll never forget the first time I went to that stadium, and I actually walked by it right on my match day because it was set in an urban setting in a way where like it didn't disrupt, it like contributed to, and so it was actually fronted by retail. So we very aggressively want to figure out like how 20th Street can tie Verner into Michigan Avenue, and so that like it's actually a functioning part of the neighborhood 365, not just a dead zone.
And that's one of the things that I've heard from visitors from other parts of the country and also people who visit here internationally about Keyworth is that it reminds them of those old sort of neighborhood venues and stadiums. I'm a big Arsenal fan, so coming off the Arsenal underground station, and I'm like, where's the stadium? It's just a neighborhood, and you turn a corner, it's a massive 65,000 foot stadium or 65,000 seat stadium right there. It's pretty amazing.
I mean, I found Keyworth, like I joke, I'm not going to Christopher Columbus Keyworth. It's been there since 1936. But my own personal discovery of it was I used to get my hair cut in a house a few blocks away. And there's one day I'm on the porch. I'm like, what are those light towers? And I wandered over there and I was like, this is amazing. And that really got the juices flowing for like DCFC.
Did you Columbus yourself? Self Columbus in the thing. This development also is really interesting to me because these number streets, there hasn't been as much activity over there in over the last decades, and to see some things start to happen over there, and I think that ties into, you said there's stadium, there's some other ideas. So what are you envisioning beyond the stadium, and in an optimal world, knowing that things happen?
It's an interesting juxtaposition, right? Like we currently have nothing in the way of parking, really. Like, there's like 200 some parking spots at our disposal. And so there's now a pressure on us, like obviously being mindful of the existing community of like having parking. The economics of it, like we will build one parking deck. I would love to have more, so we don't have like as much surface parking, but like there's really realities. But we are, have been and continue to be in conversations with developers in the city, like a next generation of developers who want to like do stuff to complement what we're doing. And I think doing it in an independent way. And so we're already, helping to facilitate and, looking at bringing other F&B partners into the, not just in land we own, but land that we can help like them set up shop. So we're creating, I hate to use the word district, but we
need somebody grab a thesaurus now.
Yeah.
I've described as a
subdivision out of
no. Then you'd have to name it after what it demolished over, right? If it's the Whispering Woods, it's always because there used to be woods there.
I genuinely like a neighborhood, right?
Of
that's
course.
like that's the aspiration. So seeing some degree of housing and entertainment options. But I think we've always been mindful of like executability, like is that a word? But like we want to do something that we know we can deliver on. And maybe it's not all day one, but it's in short order, and it's not a project that's lagging on for 20 years.
And I think one of the cool things about it is that there's just so much activity over there currently, and has been planned for the next 5 years. That the energy of the new stadium combined with everything already existing is only going to help matriculate some of the ideas.
What is something that you thought you knew but learned different in the last few years?
I'm constantly embarrassed about what I don't know on a given day. This has been the most humbling project I've ever been a part of. So I think, I just roll with it every day. No, I don't know. Shoot. No, my ego's been taken down so many notches. It's hard to keep track of all the things I've learned here.
From one business owner to another, I know the feeling.
Season's happening. You're sitting in seventh place right now, but things can move. Solidly playoff team right now, and you made the playoffs last season. How's the season been going for you in your mind, and where do you think is the ceiling for this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's somewhat inappropriate for owners to be chiming in the middle of the season, right?
You want a title. You could always say you want a title, right?
Yeah.
You're an owner.
No, I mean, our goal is to be a leader in this league on and off the field. And so, that's where we're pushing ourselves to be. And, I think we got a great group of guys, and we saw the potential beginning of the year. And, we trust that, it's a long season. There'll be always adjustments in the roster made, whether it's by design or by injury, but like it's we'll see things moving here. But yeah, our goal is to have those home playoff games and to get to be at the top at the end of the year, and so that's what we'll hold the standard we're holding the guys to.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much, Sean, for joining us. Like I said, it's been a long time coming. We want to talk to you more as more development with stadium and everything around it goes on. Hopefully the next time we're talking to you, we're talking about raising trophies and all this wonderful stuff.
Always.
And so we're going to keep our support as firm and as fervent as possible. Again, Sean Mann, co-founder, CEO of Detroit City Football Club. Thank you for joining us on Daily Detroit.
Appreciate you having me on.
And we are done for today. Remember to tell a friend about the show. Word of mouth is the best way to push Detroit's conversation forward. I'm J.R. Stays. Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you are somebody, and I'll see you around Detroit. Talk tomorrow.